Hey guys, it's me Crystal from Marching North, and today I'm going to show you how to make this Macraweave wall hanging. To start, you'll need to have your 24 main ropes attached to your dowel with lark's head knots, and you'll see the full supply list in the description below. Starting on the left side, you're going to make 3 double half hitch knots going down and to the right. Then grab the 8th cord from the left and make 7 double half hitch knots going down and to the left. Now grab the 5th cord from the left and use that as the filler cord and make 3 more double half hitch knots going down and to the right. You're going to repeat this X design 5 more times all the way across to the right. I tied the filler cord for the row of double half hitch knots to either side of my rack to try to help keep it straight. Just tie this row of double half hitch knots all the way across and try to keep it as straight as you can. Mine isn't perfect and the weaving kind of hides it a little bit, so it's not the end of the world if it's not perfect, but try your best. Now skip down about 4 or 5 inches and tie another row of double half hitch knots the same way. Underneath your row of double half hitch knots you just did, you're going to tie 2 square knots stacked on top of each other, and then you're going to repeat that all the way across to the right. Skip the first 2 cords and then tie a row of just 1 square knot all the way across. Now starting back at the left, do another row with 2 stacked square knots all the way across. Right underneath that last row of square knots, we're going to do another row of double half hitch knots. Skip down about 4 or 5 inches and do another row of double half hitch knots. Under that last row of double half hitch knots, we're going to do another row of X's. So you'll do 3 double half hitch knots going down and to the right. Then grab the 8th cord from the left and do 7 double half hitch knots going down and to the left. Then grab the 5th cord from the left and do 3 double half hitch knots going down and to the right, and that makes 1 X. Go ahead and repeat that 5 more times to the right. Now you're going to tie 1 last row of double half hitch knots underneath the row of X's. Now we've completed the macrame skeleton of the Macraweave, so it's time to get down to the weaving part. This weaving part's a little bit more freeform, but I'll try to explain what I'm doing. I'm taking one of my pieces of cotton rope and I'm tucking it under just that second cord there, and then I'm gonna do a sumac weave. So I'm going to this fourth cord over and I'm just looping it in front of and then around, and then you're going to want to be careful not to pull it too tight or it'll make the sides of your weaving part all come in all weird. And then I just skipped 2 and went around the next one and just gently tighten it and push it down and try not to make anything too tight. Just keep doing the sumac weave however far you want it to go. I think I did mine about halfway, or maybe a little bit more than halfway across. So when you're ready to turn around and come back the other direction, I'll show you what I did. I just went ahead and did that last one like normal. And then I just, instead of going to the left, I went back to the right and went around in the other direction, the same one that I was going, you know, it kept the same pattern going around the same strings so it would make that braid look. And then I just went back all the way to the right. So at this point I wanted to add some raya knots, and I have this 3mm yellow cord, and I just picked where I thought would be a good spot to stick them, and I doubled it up because it's really thin, and then I just did a raya knot here, and I just did a few of them, and I would do like 4, and then I would go back and do ones in between, on top of and in between the ones I did before to kind of fill it up a little bit. But yeah, you just make the raya knot like that and just scoot it down, and then we'll keep on weaving on top of it. So I'm just resuming with where I left off with that rust colored piece of cord, and I'm going to do more sumac weave going to the left. So now I'm just changing colors to this pink cord and doing a little bit more sumac weave to the left. So this time I went all the way to the left, and then I'm just turning around like I did before and doing the sumac in the opposite direction back to the right. So now I'm grabbing this white acrylic roving stuff, and I'm going to do a big puffy sumac braid on the left. And it's just the same as you did with the other cord, it's just that this is bigger. So you're gonna want to go around more cords and not make it too tight. So I skipped 3 here, and then I went around the 4th one, and you just, like before, just be careful you don't pull it too tight and just kind of, you know, fluff it up and stuff while you're going. And you kind of have to poke at it and move it around a little bit, but just take your time, and if it feels like you're bunching it up too much, just skip another cord if you need to. But this worked for mine. So I did the sumac weave about halfway across, and then I decided to turn back. So it's the same way as before, just turn around and come back around the same way, or the same cords, just in the different direction. And once I got to the end, I just kind of tucked this end down behind the sumac braid and made it, tried to make it look as good as I could. It was kind of finicky, but yeah, just tuck it in and then you can move on to the next part. Back over on the right, now I'm grabbing 2 of my mustard yellow cord and I'm gonna do just a plain weave going to the left, and I'm gonna go over top of 3 cords and then go under 1 cord. And once I get up to this corner, I'm just gonna wrap around that 1 cord that's right next to the roving, and then I'm going to continue this pattern going back to the right, just making sure that I alternate which cords I'm going over and under so that the pattern kind of is staggered. Once you get back all the way to the right, you can just turn around and make another row back to the left. So I'm switching back to pink here and doing more sumac weave to the right. And I realized at the end that doing the sumac here kind of totally covered up the yellow over on this side. So if you're following along with me, you might want to do just like a regular weave here to not cover up the yellow so much, but it's up to you. Time for more raya knots. So I did 4 raya knots going to the right here, and I just kind of picked a random spot, and then I did 3 more raya knots on top of and in between each of those 4. Then again, I just picked up where we left off and continued doing the sumac weave to the right. After the sumac, I went back in and did just some plain weave again to fill in this corner, and then later I actually went in and took that out and replaced it with yellow, just so you know. Back over on the right, I'm getting this rust color going again, and I'm going to do a row of sumac going to the left, and then I do another row of it going back to the right. And then after that, I just fill in the rest of the corner with more plain weave, doing over 3 and under 1. Wait, I forgot, there's more raya knots. So before I finished this last row of sumac here, I went in and added a few more raya knots with the pink cord, just for fun. Now that we got it all filled in, you can go in and trim up your fringe, and if you want to brush it out, you can, or whatever. I trimmed mine up a few different times because I couldn't quite decide how I wanted it. And then after this, I went ahead and I filled in the bottom part with my weaving. I didn't film that part because this video is just going to get way too long, but I did the exact same techniques, just kind of reversed. I did the white braid on the right side instead of the left, and I kind of just tried to make it balanced. Now I just wanted to kind of show you how I tidied up the back a little bit. I just cut the ends off of all the pieces that were hanging and left a few inches, and then I just tucked them behind the warp strings that are on the back. Just make sure you don't accidentally poke it through where you can see it on the front, but it's pretty solidly woven, so it's pretty easy to just tuck them to the back. Mine still looks like a hot mess, but the ends aren't hanging down where you can see them, and that's all I'm really concerned about because, you know, it's going to be hanging on the wall. No one's going to see it. Just tuck in all your ends and then trim off the excess. So here's the finished woven part. I just wanted to show you how it looked once I got the bottom done. You can see I just did basically the same stuff, just slightly different. I moved the fringe around and I tried to keep the colors kind of balanced. But yeah, it's the same technique. I did hold 3 strands of the yellow together when I was weaving there instead of 2, just because I thought it would be more interesting. I don't know. But yeah, so now that we got all the weaving done, and you're gonna tuck the ends in on the bottom part too, obviously, we can get down to the bottom and address the fringe going on at the bottom. So I untwisted all the fringe at the bottom, and then I decided that it just wasn't enough fringe. So I added another row of double half hitch knots across the bottom here to make a space to add more raya knots. And then I just cut 24 pieces of my main rope, and I have all the details of links and everything in the description. But and I just tied raya knots going through the little spaces where it was kind of tricky since I had already untwisted it. So if you are doing this, maybe don't untwist it before you do your double half hitch knots. But I just did a row of raya knots all the way across. Then I just went through and untwisted all of the fringe, and I just left the filler cord ends from that last row of double half hitch knots there and untwisted it too, and it kind of blends in with the fringe. To help me cut the fringe nice and straight, I just tied another rope across my hanging rack and just cut as straight as I could, going all the way across the bottom. This is where a very sharp pair of scissors is your friend, and I will link in the description to my all-time favorite ones that I'm using here. They are awesome. And that's it. And I am absolutely in love with how this turned out. It's my first real Macraweave, and I just really love it, and I'm so excited. And you will be seeing more weaving stuff in the future for sure. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please leave a like. And be sure to subscribe to my channel for more crafty tutorials and DIYs. Thanks for watching!